It's Tuesday, and you all know what that means. As you probably know, New Japan just had a much recent event in Corkin Hall, Death Pain Invitation. So basically, people were invited. But of course, this one features talent not only from New Japan, but also from Freedoms and of course DDT and various freelancers. But the main event features the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship defended in a death match. But this one is, of course, the final confrontation between two respectable rivals. We're talking about deathmatch legend Jun Kasai taking on his longtime rival El Desperado, our current IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion. So this is gonna be a blast. And then, of course, we cap up with this review with NXT. As you probably know, battle lines are being drawn. Not only for the upcoming, of course, Evolution event, we will see who will be the number one contender to challenge JZ Jane for the title. And of course, a lot of things have been taking place in NXT, and I can't wait to talk about it. But as always, we will cap up our episode with some news updates to give you guys updates on what's been happening in the world of pro wrestling, such as what events the promotions are throwing out, who's booked, what matches are set, including developments that are happening in the world of pro wrestling as we speak. So, let's get ready for another episode of Deleted Wrestle Zone.
Are you ready? Get up, get up! 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 Get up, get up!
Hey everyone, welcome to Deleted Wrestle Zone, all things that is pro wrestling with AEW, NXT, New Japan Pro Wrestling, TNA, the National Wrestling Alliance, various promotions, wrestlers, matches, and championships. I am your host, J-Rod here. So, if you are new to the channel, welcome. This is a channel where we do a lot of pro wrestling reviews from various promotions, not only here in the United States, but also in Japan, Mexico, Canada, Europe, the UK. Anywhere in the world pro wrestling is not as big, but it continues to grow. We also, of course, do discussion videos, talk about various topics such as the wrestlers themselves, the promotions, factions, storylines, whatever we want to talk about. We also, of course, do more news updates. If certain information was unable to be on this episode, we can either put it on the next one or on a separate video by itself. We also, of course, do real-time news updates to keep you guys on alert if something has happened in the world of wrestling that needs to be addressed ASAP. We also, of course, got the Unagi Sayaka Watch and various other cool wrestling content as well. So if you like what you see, please subscribe to us or click on that subscribe button. You'll be getting a lot of daily reviews and other cool wrestling content as well. But if you like this episode, please give us a like on the like button or a nice comment in the description down below. Now, enough with the yapping. It's time to rock. So, let's begin with our very first review, and this is from New Japan's Death Pain Invitational. Alright, so let's begin with New Japan Pro Wrestling with Death Pain Invitational. Now, this is, of course, an event where we see various wrestlers, not only from New Japan, but also we got wrestlers from DDT, Freedoms, and possibly freelancers. So basically, you can get the gist on this one. No, we don't see talent from Noah or All Japan or Dragon Gate unless they were invited. Our first match, we have an 8-man tag team match. We have Dragon Libre, Kengo, Gentaro, and Tatsuhito Takaiwa. They take on, of course, Daiki Nagai, Katsuya Murashima, and of course we have 6 or 9 consistent of Master Wato and Ryusuke Taguchi. So basically we have a very interesting factor here. Now, many of you would think just because I mentioned 2 of the young lions, we're talking about Shimokato and Katsuya, no, Daiki Nagai and Katsuya Murashima, that most likely they could be the losing factor of it. Yes, I mean, that seems the logical thing that many people would presume. However, this match ended with, of course, with Taguchi applying an ankle lock on Dragon Libre, and just like that, Dragon Libre had no choice but to tap. Our next match, we have the Bullet Club War Dogs, consisting of Geto and Taiji Shimori. They take on Mammoth Sasaki and Takashi Sasaki. So we got one of the founders of Pro Wrestling Freedoms involved in this match. Now, of course, you would think that in some capacity, that as the War Dogs being the toughest ever, well, you guys are messing with 2 members who are, in fact, deathmatch wrestlers, which, of course, Geto and Taiji Shimori have no experience in, but luckily they were not involved in that. But in the end, it was Takashi who picked up the win onto Geto, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, it was done. Next up, we have Jun Masaoka taking on Kosei Fujita. Now, it wouldn't be surprising that this happened due to the fact that, of course, Kosei Fujita, as many of you know, he is the current winner of the Best of the Super Juniors, and he most likely will challenge for the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship against Despy. So that's something we will see. But the match itself was pretty good. We have seen Kosei Fujita grown up. Not to mention, as you know, he is one of Zack Saber's students. He learned a lot from him, and that's exactly what he did. All the skills that he learned throughout the time he learned under Zack, well, it paid off when he defeated Masaoka in a submission, and just like that, Masaoka had no choice but to tap. Now, our next match, this one is a hardcore tag team match. Team number 1, we have Kenji Fukimoto, and of course the most craziest one, Masashi Takeda. They take on Rina Yamashita and Zu Suzuki. Now, keep in mind, you probably say, wait a minute, so this is a boys and girls setting in a hardcore match? Yes. Look, guys, Rina Yamashita and Suzuki, these ladies have built their careers in this type of fashion. They've been involved in death matches much of their careers. You know, Zuzu has always been a big fan of it. Don't forget, when she grew up, she watched Big Japan Pro Wrestling. That's how she got into it. But of course, they can take anything. But however, you have to be more careful when it comes to Takeda, because Takeda is crazy. But it was Takeda who picked up the win by pinning Rina, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, it was over. Next up, we have an interesting tag team match. A combination of wrestlers from, I believe, are from, we have Tomoya Irada. He teams up with Toru Yano. They take on Toru Sugiura. He teams up with Bolton Oleg. So yes, so it's a lot of interesting factors. I wasn't too sure where this is gonna be, but it was a pretty good match. But however, it was Toru Sugiura who actually picked up the win with the Michinoku driver onto Irada, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, it was over. Now we jump into our main event. It's the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship, defended in a Florentine light tube glass board barbed wire death match. Yes, so you can guess that this match was going to be crazy. Now we know Jun Kasai and El Desperado have faced each other countless times, but but recently, in the last year or so, they have learned to respect each other, not only as opponents, but wrestlers who have defined themselves in their own rights. I mean, Jun Kasai being a legend in the deathmatch scene, people who love him for what he does, and not to mention Despy, who never considered himself as the face of the company, but he always considered himself as the best, regardless of what he does. But you can tell that this match was brutal with a lot of plunder. I mean, light tubes, chairs, barbed wires, whatever it was going to take. But of course, it was Despy who walked away with the win when he applied the Pinchi Loco, not once, but multiple times, in order to ensure he gets the win. And that's exactly what he did. 1, 2, 3, El Desperado retained the championship. And of course, a very much emotional match between both Despy and Jun Kasai because A, they started out as rivals, but later became respectful with each other, knowing too well that no matter what the outcome these two will have, they will always respect each other no matter what. So you can say it's like a perfect ending between these two. But we'll see what happens in the future between those two. I mean, I would like to see these two team up in a tag team setting, but it's going to be a lot of fun. But we'll just hope. But at this moment, let's move on to our next and final review, NXT. Alright, final review, NXT. We start out with the TNA World Championship match. Trick Williams defended against Josh Briggs. Now, many of you may remember about this recently. It was Yoshiko Inamura who pinned Trick Williams for hopefully for a title shot. However, Inamura decided to give this opportunity to Josh Briggs because he told him, let's think bigger, other than the tag team belts. He tells him, you go for the TNA title, become the TNA World Champion, me NXT Champion. So that's one of the things that happened. Now, I know some of you may think in some capacity there is no way Trick Williams will lose this belt. Most likely you would think. However, of course, Josh Briggs put up a hell of a fight, but it was not enough until Trick Williams applied a trick shot, and just like that, it was over. However, Trick was about to do a promo until say his name and he appears. I believe in Joe Hendry. Yep, he showed up, gave Trick William a whoop ass. So basically, that's how it ended right there. Now, as you all know, No Quarter Catch Crew are now trying to pick up the pieces now that Miles Bourne is out. So it seems like things are not looking well for them because Tavian Hart seems like he's looking for a way out. But he has to contend with Javon Evans. So that's something we'll definitely try to see. Now, speaking of No Quarter Catch Crew, former member Miles Bourne was talking to several people from the LFG. I think their names is George Grums Jr. and Tariq Sapp. However, while he was having a nice conversation with them, he was interrupted by none other than Mr. Nosy himself, the King, Lexus King. So basically, you know how that turns up, but we'll get to that at some other point. Now, our next match, we have Javon Evans versus Tavion Heights. Now, of course, Tavion Heights, he pull up every moment he can did to pull up to show that he has what it takes. But unfortunately, when it comes to Javon Evans, he basically is, of course, one of those wrestlers that you can try to put him down, but he will keep on fighting no matter what. And that's exactly what he did when he applied the corkscrew splash onto him. And just like that, it was over. However, in the post-match, Javon Evans was attacked by Jasper Shepard. Now, this was a thing that happened last week where Javon Evans was talking to him, try to be on his good side. Tell him, dude, you had an amazing match against Obafemi. You could have won it if it would have been in your choice. But of course, Jasper Shepard was not looking for friends, but so that kind of ended right there. Now, our next match, we have Ricky Saints taking on Ashante Di Adonis. Now, this came around a week ago when, of course, Ricky Saints still has unfinished business towards Ethan Page, but Ethan Page last week was hanging out with the guys from the Vanity Project, and of course, Ashante Adonis was there, so that's what led. Now, of course, Ashante Di Adonis would do whatever it takes to impress Ethan Page and the Vanity Project, but however, it was not enough until Ricky Saints applied the Rochambeau, and just like that, it was over. And then Ethan Page showed up on the monitor. Well, you can tell that this was a trap for Ricky Saints, and he attacked them. So you can see how that went down. However, Ava Reigns had just had enough between both Ethan Page and Ricky Saints getting at it. Of course, Ethan Page acts like he thinks that, it should have been over, but it's not. So there's going to be a little discussion in the room next week. So we'll see what happens. Now, Obafemi, as you know, has managed to retain the NXT Championship against anybody that stood his way. His biggest challenge was against Jasper Troy. However, it appears that someone decided to answer that call to be the next challenger, and that is Yoshiko Inamura. So basically, that was the case. But however, Jasper Shepard, in the other hand, Jasper Troy, my bad, he actually was not done with Obafemi, so it was later announced that there's going to be a number one contender between those two, between Inamura and Troy. So we'll see who will be the next challenger to challenge Obafemi. Now, So Ruka and Zarya decided to have a little chat with Tatum Paxley after what happened last week. But, of course, Izzy Dame showed up and decided that she was going to be her friend instead because, as you know, Tatum Paxley has not been herself with the disappearance of both Shotzi and Gigi. So that pretty much it right there. But I think many people are questioning, is Izzy Dane really acting like the leader or something? I don't know, but we'll see. Now, our next match is for the NXT Heritage Cup that became vacant. Now, Noam Dar got injured or so it became vacant. So it became between Tony D'Angelo and Stax. Now, remember, Stax stabbed Tony D'Angelo in the back. So here's how it went down. Second round, it was Tony D'Angelo that won after he applied his spears. But the fourth round, it was Stax's favor. But however, the entire time they've been attacking Tony D'Angelo's knee. But that gave, of course, Stax the pinfall. But however, in the time of the fifth round, Luca Crucifino tried to show support to Tony D'Angelo, but in the end, it was Stax who applied the move by doing a suplex. But the real question now remains: even though Stax won the Heritage Cup, does Tony D'Angelo trust Luca Crucifino? That's a very good question, but we'll see what happens. Now, as you know, there's going to be a number one contender in our main event. Fatal Influence was asked about the whole thing, so they're trying to prove their point that they're the ones in charge of NXT. So they will be keeping an eye out on the number one contendership. Now, Thea Hale decided to, of course, talk to some of the newer people who are making their presence known in NXT. Well, she was interrupted by Lainey Luck, but later she was interrupted by, of course, Lash Legend, an opponent that Thea Hale has faced before, but she is making her way to I'm sure she wins the number one contendership for the NXT Women's Championship. Now, out of nowhere, we did see, of course, the tag champions were attacked. We don't know what that one was about, but we'll see. Now, Joe Hendry did mention that there's going to be a rematch between him and Trick Williams. I believe that's going to happen next week. It's a rematch for the TNA World Championship. So, even though Joe Hendry said, yes, he lost, but that's in the past, it's the moment in the future now, the moment. So basically, that's what he's going to focus on right now. Now, our main event is the number one contendership for the NXT Women's Championship. We have Jada Parker versus Izzy Dame versus Lash Legend versus Jordan Grace. Now, these women won qualifier matches in order to participate. And of course, watching this is Fatal Influence. And Jay-Z Jane is looking out who will be her next opponent. Well, it could be a number of them. I think many people would have hoped Jada Parker could have been. But in the end, it was Jordan Grace with a torture rack bomb onto Parker. And just like that, 1, 2, 3, it was over. So Jordan Grace will meet Jay-Z Jane at Evolution. So that's going to be a very interesting match to watch. So we'll get to that when the day comes. But as of right now, we are officially done with all the reviews. Let's move on to our last and final thing, news updates. Okay, so welcome to our news update. So let's begin, as always, with our upcoming events. Now, the first one we have is JCW, Jersey Championship Wrestling updates here. Now, as you know, on July 6th, they'll have the Born Almost on the 4th of July. Now, two things have been announced for that, 2 matches. There's a Jersey Lotto. I don't know what the heck is a Jersey Lotto, but they did mention 2 wrestlers have been mentioned that will participate. These are the first 2 entrants. The first one is Effie. The second is Joey Janela. And then there's another match involved in that very same show called Weapon of Choice. We have Beastman versus Bam Sullivan. Now, a month later, on August 2nd, they have High Noon. Two things have been announced for that particular event. Kevin Knight will be making his appearance, and there's a match that's been announced. We have Matt Tremont versus Adam Priest. So that's pretty much all for the JCW events. Let's talk about the other ones. We have, of course, Deadlock Pro Wrestling with Tag Festival. They'll take place on the 16th of July. There's going to be the National Championship will be defended. LeBron Cozone defends his title against Cedric Alexander. Then we have the collaboration between West Coast Pro, Deadlock Pro Wrestling, and Prestige for Cruel Summer on the 26th. The West Coast Pro Women's Champion will be there, Johnny Robbie. So yeah, that's going to be it. Then we have, of course, House of Glory with High Intensity. They'll take place on August 1st. Indy Hartwell will be making her presence known there. GCW has announced for Masashi Takeda will be participating in two homecoming events in Atlantic City on the 23rd and the 24th of August. And then finally, no date has been announced yet by Filipino promotion Dexcon. They announced Chris Brooks and Takeshi Masada will be participating. So I don't know when that event will be happening, but it's been announced by them. Now on to some developments here. Now, as you all know, I did mention in the last episode, Sumika Yanagawa has announced that she'll be leaving GTO to go freelancing. Well, it just turns out her tag team partner, her fellow 1111 tag team partner, Misa Kagura, or as many people like to call her, Tam Nakano's clone, also is going to leave GTO as well. So basically, we probably will see more of Sumika and Misa teaming up as 1111. But some of you may ask me, what the hell is 1111 means? That is the date of their debut. They actually debuted on November 11th, in case anybody asks. So yeah. An interesting thing is going on. Prestige Wrestling has revealed the footage on their X account. DREXL is currently looking for his former mentor, and that is Dr. Luther. And he puts out saying that if you approach Dr. Luther, do not approach, as he's considered dangerous. And he left an email, says, where is Dr. Luther at gmail.com with any tips. So basically he's looking for him. I think somebody was saying, you should find him in AEW. Well, I don't know, but that's pretty much what he's saying. Fightful Select reports that it's been confirmed that Abyss, forgot his real name, he has no interest in returning as wrestling again because he's officially retired. But however, he is happy in his role as, of course, a producer in WWE. So that's pretty much that's been mentioned. Now, an interesting thing coming from Starlight Kid. A few things have happened recently with her. Let me pull that up real quick. Here it is. So she recently talked about, of course, Bozilla and Suri. As you know, Bozilla made her recent appearance this past weekend. So and of course, Suri has won the IWGP Women's Championship. She did say, the Big Show this time was completely taken over by these two. We need to make sure that Stardom doesn't dyed orange, referring to Marigold as orange. So yeah, that's what she meant. Now, she even talked about Suri wanting to take part of the 5-star Grand Prix. This is what she said. She's someone who grew up watching the same women's wrestling I did. So I've always been interested in her. I want to be in the 5-star Grand Prix, and now she's the champion. I want her to come in with intentional of invading Stardom. So it seems that she has her sights set on seeing what she's all about. So that's going to be a huge thing. And then she says, Suri has always talked about like she's above everyone. So the only place to teach her a lesson is in Stardom Ring, right? And Bozilla, well, don't think the Orange Ring and Stardom are the same, you know. Well, we know that Bozilla recently was with Mighty Golden and she left not too long ago, but yeah. So she's gonna be keeping an eye on both of them. So we'll see where that goes. And I think right now, I think that's pretty much it what we have for our news updates. So let's just call it a day. Well, I hope everybody enjoys this episode. Coming up, as you probably know, we have WWE Evolve and AEW Dynamite. So we'll see how things will roll because in AEW Dynamite, as you know, we are on the road to AEW All In Arlington, Texas. So we know that's going to be a blast. But if there's any other reviews we may do on the next episode, well, we'll just have to wait and see. I do know we have a much recent Stardom event. I'm not sure if I'll be able to do it, but if I do, good for me. I got that out of the way. Now I'm still behind on certain Yoshi events and other promotions that I might do, but we'll just have to wait and see how things will roll up starting from here. But I'll catch up with everything else. But until then, I will see you guys in the next DWZ time, same DWZ channel. I must bid all of you adieu. So, goodbye, and have a nice day. Bang.